Yes, win. Hi everybody, I'm Adam Noyce from Chopper Pilot 5, and guess what I saw? Well, judging by the fact that you clicked on this video and you see the title of the video has something to do with The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, I saw the midnight premiere of The Dark Knight Rises on July 19th-July 20th, and my god, I knew that this movie was going to be at least as good as The Dark Knight with the Joker, but I didn't think this movie would be that good. I'm just going to say that right now. This movie completely, in my opinion, blows The Dark Knight out of the water. The Dark Knight Rises, I think, is a masterpiece of cinema. Not that The Dark Knight wasn't, but I mean, this movie I can actually see getting nominated for, like, Best Picture, stuff like that, even though I know it doesn't have a chance in hell because the Academy Awards are stupid. Before I get any further in here, I'm going to say right now that there are spoilers in this video. Spoilers alert! Blah. So you've been warned. So I guess all I'm going to do is, well, before I even get into The Dark Knight Rises, I gotta say this. I went with my friend Andre down to see it, and I was waiting, because Gorazard chatted me up on Facebook, and he said, you know, there's rumors going around, even though he didn't believe it, to be honest, neither did I, that the Godzilla teaser would be within the previews before The Dark Knight Rises actually started playing. And so I didn't really believe him, but at the same time I was like, preparing myself to see it, and right from the get-go I was like, even if this movie completely sucks, it would be worth going just because I get to see this goddamn teaser trailer. Sure enough, it didn't play, so I was a little bit let down, but let me tell you, this movie definitely made up for the letdown. Right from the get-go. Oh my god. Between this and the Godzilla reboot, I don't think I've ever followed a movie more intensely until its release, other than, you know, the Godzilla reboot. The Dark Knight Rises I was following pretty much ever since I heard that Christopher Nolan was starting to work on a script with Jonathan Nolan, and I was just so psyched and hyped that this was going to be the last movie, and indeed it is the last movie of Christopher Nolan's Batman series, and let me tell you, does it go out with a bang. By far, out of all the Christopher Nolan movies I've seen so far, by far this is the best. And without a doubt, the most epic. I mean, this movie, I mean, Christopher Nolan even stated that, you know, that he wanted to make this movie massive. Let me tell you, he succeeded at that, especially the ending. I mean, oh my god! This movie is huge! Like, I thought the trailers, just watching the trailers, I was able to see just how much more massive this movie was going to be compared to the other movies in the Batman trilogy. No, the trailer doesn't even touch at how huge this movie is. I mean, there are scenes where there are clearly, I don't know how many extras, I'm not even on IMDb right now. I can't even tell how many extras there were, but let me tell you, Christopher Nolan was able to make it look like an entire city was actually there when really there's probably only about a handful of people. This is one of Christopher Nolan's great talents, is that he's able to do things like this, and he's one of the few film directors in working in Hollywood now that I actually, you know, I think will be remembered while being remembered as one of the greatest movie directors in cinema history. And he is just does so good at this stuff. And I'm having a hard time explaining how awesome The Dark Knight Rises was. Oh my god! Okay, so I'm going to say it right now. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the character of Bane, played by Tom Hardy, who I knew him as Krator Shinzon in Star Trek Nemesis. Oh my god. I have a new favorite Batman villain now. Oh wow. Or at least in this continuity. Bane in this movie was just so cool. And he was, you know, he was the sort of stereotypical poetic villain at first, but he was just so badass at doing it that I wasn't caring. And as the film progressed, you realize that he wasn't just this sort of, and this is one of Christopher Nolan's talents as well, he wasn't just sort of like the stereotypical villain as we got in, you know, the monstrosity Batman and Robin and or as well as some of the episodes. Sorry to say this if anybody gets pissed off at me for this, but some of Bane's episodes in the animated series, he was rather flat as well. Not in this. Oh my god. He's just the ultimate badass. He made Heath Ledger's the Joker look... Okay, let me just say this. Bane's performance in here blows Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker out of the water. And I know it's hard to complain them because they're compare them because there's two different villains completely. But the only reason why I'm bringing this up was because they are the two main villains in these two movies, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. And also Heath Ledger won an Academy Award for his performance as the Joker. Tom Hardy needs to win an Academy Award for his portrayal of Bane. He did so wonderful with this character that I actually found myself not only rooting for him, believe it or not, but actually sympathizing with him, which also makes him a 3D character that I fucking love. And so for spoiler-wise, here's where we begin. First off, this movie has a kick-ass opening on a plane, and actually, you know what? Before I get to that, I'm going to be all over the place on this. This, as you can tell, this isn't scripted. When I was watching the trailers and analyzing stuff that I've been seeing of The Dark Knight, here's what I was gathering. Let's see, this John Blake character was going to become the new Batman. Batman was going to die. Anne Hathaway was going to be, or you know, Catwoman was going to be Bruce Wayne's lover. Bane was going to be the one to kill Batman, and it was going to be epic, you know. And believe it or not, I was actually a little bit over half right, and I was actually very, very happy that I was over half right, because it just showed it to me. It showed me that my research and stuff had gone, you know, right. But Jesus Christ, there's a phenomenal twist in it that I just fell in love with. I didn't see it coming, this twist, and it was so well written. And okay, here's the spoilers where you find out that Miranda, who slept with Bruce Wayne because she looked like she was going to be Bruce Wayne's love interest forever, but she backstabs him, and you discover that she was actually the one who was plotting all this out, who wanted to avenge Ra's al Ghul because he was her father, and Bane was her protector in that pit that, you know, apparently no one could escape from except for this child, and Bane was her protector. And I was like, this makes so much sense. I mean, I was liking it previously when you thought that Bane was the child who was escaping from the pit, but oh my god, that twist where I was like, oh god, this is an M. Night Shyamalan-esque twist, you know, before he got stupid, which was After Signs. And it was amazing. I was so happy with that twist. I didn't see it coming. It caught me so off guard. It caught everyone else in the theater off guard too, because there was a couple gasps I heard. And it was so cool. And the person who played Miranda, she also played Leonardo DiCaprio's character's wife in Inception, another Christopher Nolan movie. She plays it so well, because she looked like she was this really smart bitch, and she was manipulating Bruce Wayne in a way that it wasn't too over the top, but yet you could sense it, and she played it so well. And that you also got a sense that, hey, these two are actually going to fall in love, because Anne Hathaway already backstabbed, not literally, but backstabbed Bruce Wayne once before. And so you're like, oh, hey, they're going to be happy together. Nope, all of a sudden she pulls out a knife and stabs Batman right in the side. Oh my god. And the sound effects that they added in on that scene, all the action scenes, the sound effects were amazing. I'm just having such a hard time explaining how awesome this movie is. Just telling by the excitement of my voice just talking about this. But that twist, god damn, I can't speak enough about how I love that twist. And then, of course, we get the best sort of character development for Bane. I mean, Bane was already a three-dimensional villain before this, because you think that he was the child that escaped from the pit when it's Miranda, not Bane. And when you discover that Bane was her protector, Bruce Wayne, or Batman, I think was about to break his one rule. I think he was about to kill Bane, to be completely honest. And I mean, Batman was untwisting the things that hold his mask down, that keep Bane alive. And I think Batman was going to break his one rule. I mean, Batman was furious in this scene, and rightfully so. And then all of a sudden, he's sitting there just dying, and then Miranda's just over there talking, telling Batman that it was her that plotted all this, that it was her that was doing all this. She was the mastermind. Not that Bane wasn't, but she was the one that started this whole thing rolling. And you look at Bane, and Bane is just in love with her. In fucking love with her. And I almost was calling Beauty and the Beast story. I mean, this is definitely much less of a case of this, but I was calling a Beauty and the Beast story because here he is, way older than her, but yet he's a badass this entire video, where he shows no sympathy for anything. He's just this cold-hearted character who loves poetry, because pretty much every single one of his lines was read in poetry, and read in like some sort of majestic way. It wasn't just said straightforward. Very much Joker-esque, I might say, except smarter. And yes, I just said that. He's by far, Bane is smarter than the Joker. And better. And all of a sudden, he's got the soft spot for her, adding this way more sort of vulnerable state for Bane. And I love that Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan were able to add this as a character to Bane, and it made him that much more 3D, and it also made Miranda that more 3D. And watching Batman absorb this, he fucked Miranda, and there she is backstabbing him with a knife, and it's jabbed into his side. You see some blood coming out, and he's just absorbing this, and he is, for the first time, Batman is shocked. In Christopher Nolan's series, Batman is horrified and terrified by what he is hearing, by what he is seeing. And it is so good. Okay, well, enough with the twist. I could go on about the twist forever. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Oh yeah, something that I also like to notice, in the last two movies, The Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, the movies were very dark, depressing, and sad, and you hardly ever, whenever Batman was on screen, it was hard to see him because it was dark, and rightfully so. What I find interesting about this movie, not only is 90% of Batman's screen time when Bruce Wayne is actually in as Batman, is it during the daytime, but it's also snowing. That's cool, because it's making everything that much more brighter. And I think that's the sense that Christopher Nolan was trying to get out of this movie. People now know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And so now there's no sense of hiding. And Batman is just so pissed off at Bane, he doesn't care anymore. And okay, let me just state this right now. There is a fight scene between Bane and Batman. This is actually their first confrontation, well, their second confrontation scene, or actually it's their first like hand-to-hand combat scene. And Bane is pulverizing Batman, and then Bane says something like, hello, Mr. Wayne, or how are you, Mr. Wayne, or something like that. He calls him Mr. Wayne. He knows he knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne anyways. And suddenly this fight gets personal. And if anyone else were to direct this, I think they would have made this a big, epic, almost over-the-top scene with big, bombastic music, and Hans Zimmer could have done that well. But no, Christopher Nolan instead turned all the other sound effects down and just concentrated on the dialogue and the fist fight. There is no music in that entire scene. It is so cool, because I remember my mouth dropping because I was watching this, and Batman is giving his all into this fight, and he's not even putting a slight dent into Bane. And Bane just hits him with one swipe, and he's down. And Batman just keeps trying to get up and gets down, and because not only is Batman trying to, defend himself, trying to save Gotham, but now Batman, Bruce Wayne, is now fighting Bane. Not Batman, it's Bruce Wayne. And that is so cool. And the fight feels so personal, not just for the two characters on screen, but for the people in the audience as well, because you've grown to love Bruce Wayne, you've grown to love Batman, and seeing him in pain like this, it's very, very sort of heart-wrenching. And the sound effects are amazing. Every single punch actually sounded like he was actually punching people. It wasn't like a stereotypical punch that we got in a couple of the Batman Begin, like a couple punches in Batman Begins, and even a few in The Dark Knight Rises, unfortunately. Not in this. I mean, oh my god. That's probably what I'm going to be saying this entire video most of all is, oh my god. And there's this great part where Bane picks Batman up, and I'm not sure if he breaks his back, but he pops it out of location, and there's this sound, and it made me cringe. And then all of a sudden Bane pulls off Batman's mask, and you don't actually see what happened to Batman. All you see is just Bane walking away holding this broken bat mask, and he drops it. So symbolic, and it is so well done. And very, very sort of heart-wrenching that we're seeing our Batman be torn apart like this. There's another scene I would like to bring up that is by far my favorite scene in the entire movie, and that is when Bane's people are storming Gotham's version of Wall Street. My god, that is every American's dream. They're just going guns a-blazing. Hans Zimmer's music adds so much to this movie, and especially this scene, because you got the da 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 da, and it's always slowly building up until finally Bane arrives, and it's just in your face like, oh shit, this is hell on earth. Bane is here, and he means business. And I was like, this is really epic. I was getting chills. I could hear the walls vibrating because they turned the volume up so loud. And I was like, I now think that this is Hans Zimmer's best score. It just carries so much weight, and it carried so much sort of feeling to it that to be honest, the music felt like a character, as music should be. Music has lost that sense lately, and especially actually in a lot of Hans Zimmer scores, I get that it's lost that sense of character. Not in this movie. Hans Zimmer was really good at composing this music, because it actually felt like it had a character, it had a theme, and above all, it felt like it had soul. And that's what made this a great soundtrack. And then as soon as they're holding hostage and they're running away from Wall Street, they're not running away, but as Bane put it, it's time to go mobile. And or more like, it's time to go mobile. And then they're going away, and suddenly all the lights go off, and this police cop, or they're sitting in this car. I think it's like some sort of training mission or something. And suddenly all the lights go off, and suddenly you hear the and you're like, oh shit, Batman's come back. And suddenly the lights show up, and Batman's there, and the audience went wild, including me. Batman has returned after 8 years of silence. He has returned, and it was awesome. He comes back with a bang, and instead of the people going after idiot Bane, which eventually leads to their downfall, they all go after Batman, which is so funny because they think that he killed Harvey Dent. And when they're going after him, they're outnumbering him like crazy, but because he's got these new gadgets from Morgan Freeman's character Lucius Fox, he gets out, and it's so awesome. He goes out with a blaze of glory, and he makes it out of there. And it's so fucking fun. Not only was it epic, but you were enjoying this. You were rooting for Batman. I mean, you got those with the last two movies, but in this movie, you actually felt like you could stand up and root for Batman to kick ass. And it was so well done. The action scenes in this movie are so cool. By far, these are the best action scenes I have seen for Christopher Nolan. I mean, I thought they were pretty good for Inception. This movie takes what Christopher Nolan learned in Inception in terms of action and takes them to the next level. In fact, if Christopher Nolan retired on this movie, I would be so happy, because Christopher Nolan would end his career on probably what would be considered, I think, to be the greatest comic book movie ever made. I am calling this movie the greatest comic book movie ever made. This movie was just so kick-ass, so fun. It had a great plot, great music, great cinematography for the most part. There were a couple shaky cam scenes that I didn't really like because, you know, I'm not a big fan of shaky cam at all. But it was still very good. Everything about this film just worked, and worked good. And it made the entire series make sense. It tied everything about this series together, and I fucking loved that. I knew that they were going to tie this back to Batman Begins, but I was wondering how they were going to tie it back to The Dark Knight, considering the fact that the Joker would not be in this movie at all. But instead of focusing on the Joker, they actually did the smart thing and focused more on Harvey Dent. That was smart, because then we wouldn't need to get some lame-ass CG stunt double of the Joker or something like that, and tying the origins back to the Joker. That would have been stupid, but to be honest, that's what I was expecting. But instead they focused way more on Harvey Dent, which makes The Dark Knight relevant, which is awesome. As well as they focus on Rachel's death in The Dark Knight, and how Michael Caine's character, Alfred, kept that note saying that she was going to go with Harvey Dent. Rachel was going to marry Harvey Dent. And it explains that Alfred burnt that message to save Bruce Wayne from becoming Batman again. And that is another great scene for Bruce Wayne development, is that Bruce Wayne is devastated by this, and in his anger fires Alfred. Which, let me tell you this, watching Michael Caine cry like that, saying how he's failed him, he's failed Bruce Wayne, he's failed all the Waynes, was very, 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 very hard. It was very hard to not let a tear run down my face. Michael Caine, right from the get-go, is one of the greatest actors to ever live. And, well, he's one of the greatest actors ever. And, I think him as Alfred, in Batman Begins, he was okay. He was an okay Alfred. In The Dark Knight, he was a great Alfred. In this, he's a phenomenal Alfred. And it's sad that he actually isn't in it anywhere near as much as I would like to have seen him in it. But it all makes sense. And especially at the ending, when Batman actually dies, or supposedly dies, he is at Bruce Wayne's grave bawling his eyes out. And even after Bruce Wayne treated Alfred like shit and fired him and everything like that, Michael Caine still loves Bruce as if he was his own. And that was so well developed. Alfred's character had become full-rounded, and it was beautiful. So cool. And then I love it. Okay, what was one of my complaints? My one tiny complaint, or the biggest probably complaint, and it's actually not very big, is actually the ending when you discover that Bruce Wayne is still alive after saving Gotham from that nuclear bomb to go off. I mean, sure, it was cool. Everyone thinks that Bruce Wayne is dead. But I thought it would have been a much darker ending if they just kept Bruce Wayne dead. And then I love what you hear about John Blake at the ending. You hear that his middle name or something like that is Robin. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. And here was my thing, because it leaves with a bit of a question mark on what's going to happen with him. You know that he's either going to be, he's going to become the next, like, sort of vigilante superhero. But you're wondering what he's going to be. You're wondering if he's going to be either he's going to turn into a Robin-esque character, a Nightwing-esque character, or a Batman Begins-esque character. And out of all three, even though his middle name is Robin, I could picture him becoming a Batman Begins-esque Batman more than I could picture him becoming Nightwing or Robin. And that is just simply because of his character. As little as I've seen, I've only seen Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, but from what I've seen in that movie, John Blake's character fits that Batman's character well. Or pretty well. So I think he would become more of a Batman Beyond Batman instead of like a Robin or Nightwing. This movie is just full. It's full of Christopher Nolan dialogue. Like, if you're familiar with Christopher Nolan's filmography, you can almost expect what type of dialogue to get, and you definitely get it in this, but to a much larger extent, which is what is good. Because it felt like a Christopher Nolan movie without feeling like a Christopher Nolan movie, if that makes any sense at all. It's sort of like, when you watch a Quentin Tarantino movie, you can tell it's a Quentin Tarantino movie because of his dialogue and his directing style. This one Christopher Nolan took his own words to the next level and expanded upon and broadened his own sort of personality in terms of writing, which is a good thing that I think every director needs to at least try to do, except for Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino's fine. But it was just so good. This movie was so good. So I was half right. Batman kind of died, but he didn't. I knew that John Blake was going to become the next superhero. I thought he was going to become the next Batman, but I'm not sure. I know that he's going to become that, but I'm still not sure. I knew that Anne Hathaway was going to wind up being Bruce Wayne's sort of lover. Selina was going to be Bruce Wayne's lover, in that I think they were going to be partners in crime. I thought Catwoman would have been actually a more darker character than what she was. I actually was kind of for what she was doing, stealing everything, and she was smart too, which I think is why Bruce Wayne was so captivated by Selina, was because she was so smart, and that she was basically the female version of him, except more crooky. And when she betrays him that first time, when Bane and Batman are about to fight face to face for the first time, it's actually really sort of gut-wrenching, because all of a sudden, and this is in terms of her character, and this is just how beautiful Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan wrote the character, all of a sudden they're walking away, and she's walking away, and she turns around and watches, and she's actually horrified by what she's done. She's actually questioning whether her decision was the right decision or not, because I don't think she ever did that previously to that scene in her entire life, and she's actually questioning what she's doing, and it's really, really, really sad. And I love it how she redeems herself at the ending, and you think that Bane is about to kill Batman again, but no, she comes back at the last second and saves Batman, and it was really good. In terms of suspense, this movie definitely has probably the most. Out of all the Batman movies, this movie definitely has the most suspense and the most build-up, and definitely the best payoff. In terms of The Dark Knight, the ending seemed a little bit too dragged out for my 100% liking. I still loved the living shit out of it, but it was just a little bit too dragged out. This movie here seemed like it was perfectly paced, and I believe it's actually the longest one out of the three movies. Don't quote me on that, though, because according to the theater, the movie was either a little over or a little under 2 hours and 45 minutes. I believe The Dark Knight was like 2 hours and 30-something minutes, but don't quote me on that. I'm sure Zazabar would be raging right now, saying, "No, it was 2 hours and 33 minutes and 30 seconds, rah!" No, he probably wouldn't. Zazabar's awesome. But, oh my god, I can't even begin to talk about how good this movie is. Commissioner Gordon was underplayed in this movie to the perfect extent. Right from the get-go, he's looked at as like this war hero, and people are trying to get rid of him because they think that Gotham has entered a peacetime and that they don't need a war hero anymore. And what winds up happening, he discovers Bane's lair and everything, and he gets shot. And so for a majority of his scenes, he's laid up in a hospital. And it's really good because he's weak, and you can tell that his character is weak and that he slowly has to build up his strength again, adding that much more of a three-dimensional shape to an already three-dimensional character. In fact, I think Gordon is actually four-dimensional now, if that makes any sense at all. But everything just ties together so well in here. And let me tell you, seeing Liam Neeson return as Ra's al Ghul was totally awesome. I mean, I don't even think he was in the movie for like 30 seconds, or if not a little bit over 30 seconds. But those 30 seconds were the most badass things ever, because Liam Neeson, you know, is a god. Just him returning is just awesome. Morgan Freeman was pretty good. He played the same Lucius Fox as before, except this time he was a bit more involved than he was in the previous movies, which was a good thing. Morgan Freeman is just awesome anyways. It was just so cool. By far the best performance in this movie, in my opinion, goes to Tom Hardy as Bane. he just so good, just unbelievably good. His acting is good. Just every single time you see him, you feel that shit's about to hit the fan, because shit always hits the fan whenever Bane enters the room. And he's just so cool and so awesome and so epic and so mean and so heartless, but yet he has that soft spot for Miranda. And it's so cool that every single character in this movie has some sort of plot point and some sort of plot development, which is awesome. Let me tell you that. It's also funny seeing Scarecrow's cameo in here as sort of like the people's court judge. That was so funny. And he asks, he wound up Commissioner Gordon and all of his sort of followers that he's trying to get to restore Gotham from Bane's control, Bane's warlord control, or the people's control, as he put it. And he's like, "Do you think we'll choose exile over that frozen water? No, we choose death." And then all of a sudden Scarecrow's character just shakes his head and goes, "Oh, okay. Death by exile." And I was like, that was awesome and epic. And then all of a sudden they're walking on the ice and I'm like, oh shit. And, you know, I'm leaning on the edge of my seat. That's how good this was. I rarely ever do that in terms of movies. And then all of a sudden you see this flare in front of him, and then all of a sudden you hear "Turn it on." And all of a sudden the Batman music starts playing again, and then all of a sudden he turns it on and Batman walks out from the darkness. He has returned. It was awesome. It was awesome. Everything about this movie was awesome, actually. It was just so good. By far, this is the biggest one out of the series. It was the strongest one out of the series, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I could go on forever about this movie. I'll probably wind up doing another one. Probably even wind up doing a chat or something with Zazabar and Super DM about it. Because no doubt they're going to see it. In fact, I think Zazabar went to see it. There's no doubt in my mind that he's probably going to put some sort of review-analysis on his channel, which if he does, please go check that out. He's awesome. Even though he's, I don't know. But, oh my god, this is just so awesome. So by far I give this movie 4 out of 4 stars. This movie better win Best Picture of 2012. So, I gotta apologize right from the get-go. My computer died. And so, I am sort of behind on everything. We did record World War G2, and it was actually rather good and interesting chat. It was definitely more organized than World War G1. So that'll be up soon too. And remember, don't lose hope in me. It's just my computer died, so I have to reconvert everything to this new computer and get settled in with this new computer. And once I do that, I'll be back up in business. I'll be back up to business. Excuse me. And so I am here, and this is Adam Noyce saying sayonara, God bless you all, and go watch The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah.